Hey guys, I don't know if we're live yet. Hang on.
Oh, we're not
There,
live.
we're live.
Are we live?
Good morning, rise and shine, everybody who is awake and here with us. Sorry for going live so early, but that would be Foil's fault. We're just gonna blame it on her.
Everything is my fault, man.
World's fault.
Everything, right?
Oh, I gotta mute that. Oh,
Hey
sorry.
guys,
I don't know if we're live yet. Hang on.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
live. Are we live?
yeah, we're live. Okay. Didn't have my YouTube muted, but anyway, so yeah, Foil got a new job and she works Sunday nights now. So we gotta do a morning special for you if we want to keep covering this stuff. And we have so much fun doing it, and we know you guys like it. So here we are. And we apologize if you're in a part of the world or the country who's not awake yet, but you can always catch the replay. And one quick announcement before we get started. As some of you guys know, I'm speaking at a conference in Springfield, Missouri, October 30th, 31st, and November 1st. It's the XCon conference put on by Margie K, the UnXNetwork. And they have a deal going right now. If you subscribe to the UnXNetwork, which I think just requires you, giving them your email on the website, you get you're entitled to a buy one, get one 50% off discount for the tickets for the conference. So if you're interested in that deal, that link is below in the description. Anyway, so what's going on, Foil? What's going on, Aaron? Good morning, guys.
What's up? Good morning.
Is it tippy toe lemon tree time?
Right.
It is.
Inside joke.
All right. Good morning, people. Happy to be here. Yeah. Man, it is early. It is a slight bit on the early side. I'm glad you guys are here with us. This is awesome. Yeah, I'm working late. I worked late last night and I work late tonight. So I had to jump on early this morning. A lot of good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, there is. Still clearing my throat, still rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. But yeah, so it's interesting. I guess we can first of all, before that, I want to bring up something else really quick. Did you see what they're trying to do to Russell Brand right now?
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing like a hit piece on him right now.
Russell Brand accused of rape, sexual assault, and abuse. And Russell Brand has become a powerful voice for anti-vaxxers. Obviously he's been calling out the jab, the government,
All the BS,
the pedophiles, everything. So of course, all of a sudden, this is Carrie Cassidy.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Is anyone surprised by this?
Right. But I just wanted to bring it up because some people might read that and fall for it, but this is a quote from Carrie Cassidy. So the celebrity that's spoken out against the vaccine, promoted ivermectin, questioned the Ukraine war, and attacked the mainstream media, among many other things, suddenly is accused of rape and sexual assault. Go figure. Suddenly.
Right. He preempted it, though. He came out like the day before they released the article and he was like, listen, man, he was like, you're going to hear some crazy things. They're absolutely false. Like all of my relationships were consensual. Don't buy the hype, basically, which I think was a good move on his part.
Yeah, not many people would get a chance to do that.
Right.
So that's so he must have known or caught wind, which is good. That means, he's got people on his side that are tipping him off.
Well, I think they reached out to, they published, it was like News 4, Channel 4, some news organization, and they had reached out to him, I think, like before they publish a story, they tend to reach out to the person for a statement. Like, do you have anything you want to say? So he kind of knew. He was like, oh, here we go.
Oh, okay,
so
I see.
He jumped on his channel real quick and was like, listen, you're about to hear some shenanigans and none of it's true, They even tried to accuse him of getting with a 16-year-old back in the day. Like he was 30 something and she was 16 or whatever. And
right.
Why now is my question. Why didn't they do this a long time ago? Like, why are they now?
He must have something he must have said is sensitive. Like he might, you can talk about this stuff, which we know. We can cover all sorts of stuff. But when you cover that one thing that's just a little too close for comfort, all of a sudden, that's when they gotta hush you up.
Right. I discredit him now before.
I saw some speculation that it was possibly because of his appearance on Bill Maher's show. where he went in. I don't know if you saw it. He went in and he had like papers and he was like, listen, I'm not going to give any opinion. I'm just going to read facts. And he started. He was like, you know, in 2020, the pharmaceutical company said they were going to be creating this vaccine for the good of mankind. They made whatever, $100 billion that year. Like a fact, you know,
Yeah.
the US paid for the funding of the Pfizer vaccine. However, you know, the pharmaceutical companies kept all the profits. Fact. And then he just kept doing fact. And you could tell Bill Maher was super uncomfortable. He was like, oh, kept trying to interrupt him or whatever.
Of course.
And this was a fairly recent thing. So perhaps, I'm not making any accusations, algorithm overlords, but perhaps somebody was a little bit pissed.
Perhaps.
It's like they're trying to get back at him and discredit him at the same time. Yeah.
Can you guys see my screen? What
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I share the right monitor, because if I don't, you'll just see my desktop.
We love your desktop.
But you can see the Russell Brand stuff right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cause and effect. Cause on the left is all him calling out everything, and then the effect is him being accused.
Well, the mainstream media for a while has already been saying that he's promoting baseless conspiracies and all the typical bullshit that they, you know, that they say. They've been saying that for a while, like, oh no, he's right wing now, even though he's not, you know, oh, he's promoting baseless conspiracies, even though it's, you know, what we know they're mostly true, or he's at the very least like pointing out the holes and lies that the mainstream is pushing or the governments are pushing.
Right.
And apparently you're not allowed, you know, you're not allowed to do that either. If you do that, you're a far right wing extremist, conspiracy theorist. If you just point out the obvious lies.
Actually, I need to
automatically
stop my share really quick. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into this mummy.
Man.
I want to play a little video just in case somebody might not know, and there are people out there who don't follow anything. So I will play a little TikTok video that actually just kind of gives a summary of what's going on here. But I don't know, before we do that, so this is something that actually came out in 2017. And you know, they're not recovered ET bodies from Iraq. It's actually from
an archaeological site.
An archaeological site. There has been just as many people debunking this and calling it a hoax as there has been people saying it's legitimate. Gaia TV even did an entire series on this where they went over all the data and all of all of the data, and they determined that it's legitimate, it's authentic. But then there's some other things that point to maybe it's not, and we'll get into that too. Jessica Jones remote viewed it. She sent me all of her data, and I'm gonna go over some of that, which is really interesting. And we'll cover that. But before I get into that, well, do you want to say anything else before I play this little video? Either of you?
Man, I want to believe, right? I want to believe, but I'm so on the fence. This has been such a divisive thing in the community recently. Like almost immediately, people like took camps on this, right? And I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I mean, you know, supposedly Gaia spent like $1 million in paying for research on these. You know, they're allegedly carbon dated to be 1,000, you know, around 1,000 years old. Like they were found near the Nazca lines in Cusco, Peru, and then brought in front of the Mexican Congress. There are some interesting alloys and just different weird things. It's a really interesting case. But yeah, by all means, play the video.
And ABC did a report, which I read, expecting it to like debunk it, and it was completely like they're acting like it's real, you know, and who knows? We'll see. I think it's.
Didn't they say 30% of the DNA was non-human?
Yes, apparently.
Yeah, so there's that.
And all right, let me share my screen again. Share sound this time. This is I titled this one TikTok briefing.
TikTok briefing.
Gotta love the TikTok briefings.
Exit that. Hang on. Let's get the sound up.
Today, September 13th, 2023, Mexico's government did the unthinkable. In a surprise news conference, they unveiled real dead alien bodies. Officials are calling it proof of the extraterrestrial. International experts are being flown in for examination. Footage of Mexican government officials are shown unboxing small gray alien bodies that have been recovered from crash sites. These beings are unlike anything we've seen. Small in stature, their grayish skin has an almost ethereal sheen. Those large, haunting eyes, seemingly windows to a universe far beyond ours. Thanks to advanced scanning, we're getting our first look inside these creatures. Their internal structures are baffling. Systems that appear both organic and, strangely, mechanical. These scans reveal intricacies that are, frankly, beyond our current understanding. For years, there have been reports of UFOs over Mexican skies. Were they all real? The truth might be out there, but today it feels a little closer. What do you think? Today...
What do you think?
I don't know what to think about this, truly. It's interesting. You know, I'm not going to take a position that they're real or that they're fake at the moment. You know, I think this is one of the things you kind of got to wait and see how it plays out. But, you know, they've got the carbon dating. They're covered in diatoms. That's what that dusty stuff all over them is. So the diatoms supposedly prevent desiccation of the corpse. And if it is a hoax, it's probably not a modern hoax. This is probably something that was done possibly to recreate something that they had seen. You know, there's been some speculation that these things were pieced together from various, you know, like I've seen speculation that perhaps the head is made from the back end of a llama skull. Like, if it was done a long time ago, and it was done probably to recreate something that they had seen. But that doesn't explain the osmium cadmium metal plates in the chest, or the fact that there's some sort of eggs.
Yeah, what about the eggs
in the corpse, right? And now. Right. There's even some argument on the eggs. Like, one of the, you know, scientists said that they had some embryonic development within the eggs, and then others are saying, you know, there isn't anything in there, which would actually align more with some sort of a reptiloid, because the embryogenesis doesn't start until after the eggs are actually laid. So you've got arguments on both sides for this, for sure.
Right. And I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna go over some of Jessica Jones' remote viewing data, which is really interesting. And she has some really interesting things to say. So we'll play this first.
The Paranormal Chick here. This is breaking news coming out of Mexico City, Mexico. They held a UFO UAP congressional hearing similar to the one the United States held this year. Theirs was today, September 12th, 2023, and they took it a step further. They provided and presented body evidence of actual extraterrestrial. As you can see in the video, they are claiming these are two mummified bodies of aliens. They're over 1,000 years old, and they were found in a mine. Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think.
No hay una evolución posterior. De acuerdo a la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, quien realizó los análisis de carbono 14, estos seres tienen alrededor de 1000 años de antigüedad. Es decir, no se trata de seres que fueron recuperados en naves, que son estrellamientos, sino son seres que estaban sepultados en minas de diatomea, tierra de diatomea. La diatomea es una alga fosilizada con 17 millones de antigüedad, es fitoplancton que abundaba en aquel tiempo y al desaparecer se fosilizó.
So they're saying it was found in a layer of diatomaceous earth, which is interesting. But I showed that just because, like, this is shown, this isn't just like some news story. This was a congressional hearing, a Mexican congressional hearing. And they decide to, just prior to that, and David Grush thing, they literally said, we're not going to be rolling out any ET bodies, if that's what you're asking. And then at the next hearing, they roll out 2 ET bodies, allegedly. So
right, the US has their little hearings, and then Mexico's like, wait a minute, man, hold my beer. Hold my beer.
Exactly. exactly. And that actually wasn't even the video I wanted to play. I was going to play a better clip, but you get the idea. So let me stop my share for a second. Actually, no, I'm not going to stop my share. Let's just go into Jessica Jones. So I actually, you can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, one sec. Let me just make this bigger. There. Okay, so this is, I just screenshotted our conversation. Her data showed organic but not alien. I said, so native? And she said, no, fake. I said, I wonder why they were presented as evidence at a congressional hearing unless it's all part of the PSYOP to intentionally confuse us. She said, I messaged, I can't talk this early, messaged one of my contacts who said those guys presenting the bodies work for their 3-letter agency and were instructed to do so to cause confusion and distrust. It's control of the narrative and info. And I said, bingo. And she said, they could easily show us something more recent, like Roswell bodies. And I said,
Right.
thank you. I said, and
right. Why are these the ones they're bringing out instead of all like there's so many that would be
right, like
definitively aliens, like ETs,
or even footage,
question.
even like autopsy footage or some of the stuff we've seen.
There's so many things they could have done, but then they choose this very ambiguous. Is it real? Is it not? It's very psyop-y, everything about it. Yeah.
And then she said, I messaged my contact a few minutes before to show my analysis of the RV data was so contradictory to what my gut said. And I said, yeah, I need to watch your show. She goes, plus my data said grave robber, which is interesting. So I said, so maybe there was a real body at one point and that's a replica. She goes, no, my data for the first 2 targets was indifferent. It could be interpreted either way. My 3rd target was definitely leaning towards fake. And she goes, I'll show you my data. And then she said, I only got to stage 3 out of 5 for all 3 targets. I couldn't get much data, so that's a red flag in her opinion. And the first target was 2 bodies presented at the hearing. And it talked about, just words: green, hard, rough, circular, walking, quiet, inner earth, ancient, revered, statue, organic, lost history, amnesia, extraterrestrial, hidden, miniature, Agartha, mountains. So some of her data was pointing to it being real, but then some of it was pointing to it being staged. And then the second location was where the bodies were allegedly found in Nazca. Levitation, telepathy, advanced civilization, portal, Stargate, travel, multitude races, ETs off planet, time travel, wiped out, needed help, lost in time, dark age, messenger, watcher, laboratory, Earth as a laboratory. It's just interesting data. And she seems to think that, here, and the 3rd target was the composition of the body. She said this target was front loaded, but got interesting data. Stiff, hard, smooth, hidden, blinking, rolling. I guess that says mooring. I don't know. Straight, controlled, combination, bones, decomposed organisms, conspiracy, controlled, pre-planned, linear, graphs, knowledge, graduated, control, mind control, grave robber. I know it's hard to really decipher the remote viewing data, but she seems to think that some more of her data showed that she thinks they used a combination, kind of like what you said, Foil, of like different animals and even potentially children, which came up like bodies, different body parts to make this thing. So there might have been an organic aspect to it. Either way, she is like it. Even the data is contradictory, which is really weird. And she said she couldn't get much, which is a red flag in itself. So at the end of the day, like I said, Gaia did a whole series where they basically proved it's authentic. It just comes down to our discernment and what do we actually feel and what do we think? And then we have to question why they chose these bodies, like you said, Aaron, like why not something else? And it does seem very like you're watching a bad movie type of thing. Like
anything a government is bringing out is right off the bat is what's their agenda here? You know, you got to. I'm sorry, I don't trust any governments.
Right.
So anything they're parading out, there's an agenda. There's an agenda behind it, whether it's real or not. It's always going to be a psyop when you're dealing with the government. They want you to think a certain way about it. They're trying to steer your mind in a certain way for a specific agenda, which is probably not a good agenda. So you got to realize that.
We're still live, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
We're live.
Why?
It appears to be live.
Well, because my whole, I don't know what happened, but I'm exited out of everything, YouTube and everything.
Uh-oh.
No, that's on your end.
Well, yeah, we've got a little bit of a delay, but I mean, obviously we're still on Zoom, so that must be there. And it looks like we're still live on YouTube.
Okay.
A couple of interesting things about her data, like the word statue, which like I said, there were some speculation that maybe these were recreations of something that they had seen from materials that they could find, which would include organic materials, various bone fragments from different, organisms. And then, there was some speculation about the construction of the actual bone pieces and how that would be such a limited mobility for these creatures, assuming that they were at one point living creatures. Like the fact that she said grave robber multiple times, because I think a lot of the speculation that is a lot of the contention with the presentation was the involvement of Jaime Maussan, who has been called out previously for, and debunked previously for presenting something similar. And then it's interesting because as soon as this happened, the government of Peru filed some sort of a criminal complaint about how and why and when were these artifacts actually taken and removed from their country. Like, they're big mad about this. Like, who got them? When did they get them? How did they get them out of there? Like, you guys took artifacts from a site. Like, you can't do that, right? They're furious about it. So I saw a video last night where Jaime was on a live newscast. It was in Spanish, but the broadcaster was essentially calling him out, asking him, where'd you get this? And he's like, I'm a journalist. I'm not going to tell you where I got, protect my source. And the dude outright called him a liar. They got into this huge ass screaming match. It was shenanigans. Like, the entire presentation, the entire show ended up just being shenanigans. Them two screaming at each other for like 10 minutes. It was crazy.
Right. Well, it's interesting too, because what a perfect way to take the focus off of the actual bodies, and then now you're like, oh, you grave rob, where did you get these from? And like, so that now they have an entirely new narrative to focus on, and then you forget about the actual subjects themselves. But I don't know, like in the comments here, another distraction. Yeah, but okay, I get that. You can arguably say that every single thing that comes out is a distraction.
Right.
So we have to quit using that. Like, this is something much bigger, in my opinion. They are rolling all this ET stuff out all over the world now to prepare us for something, whether or not it's inevitable that we're going to realize that we're not alone and they're among us or whatever, or they have something planned like a fake alien invasion. Regardless, they're getting ahead of the game. They're making this stuff credible. They're making it real, so they can, whenever something does happen, it might not necessarily be a distraction. I think this is part of a much grander plan, in my opinion.
We have certainly got a lot of Mulder-worthy news releases in the past few years. It's very, very crazy. And one other interesting thing about this, you see Ryan Graves, who had presented to our Congress, the pilot, had presented to our Congress. He founded an organization for, removing the stigma from UFO reporting. So he was there at the Mexican congressional presentation. He was there, and they had put him, they had invited him there and wanted him to make a statement. And he was actually mad. Like, he got on Twitter the next day and was like, listen, they put me up next to this. I don't remember if he called it a scam or a sham or whatever he called it, but he was like, they put me up next to that. And he felt like they were trying to discredit his work by putting him next to something of this magnitude. Like, he was pretty upset on Twitter. But I thought that was interesting that he was there and he was not convinced. But like I said, I want to believe. I mean, we all do, right?
I mean, I
Right.
already know ETs are real. I don't.
Right. Well, we
don't
don't
need
need
a-
convincing. Yeah.
But it'd be nice, obviously, for on this massive of a scale to have proof. So,
I seen somebody saying that these are clearly doll rods inside of them, and not, they think it's like a paper mache dummy or puppet with doll rods inside of it. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like you said, the eggs are there. It potentially could be a hodgepodge or mix, a conglomeration of different body parts. Anything can be faked. We know that now, and there's no reason that, back then they would have done something like this. And today they're using CGI. They don't even need to get the real body. Everything's done, they're just deceiving us. But back then they might do something like this. Or I don't know, maybe it's real, and we're just so programmed to believe that this stuff's not supposed to be real. It's easy for us to hear a congressional hearing and they come out and say, oh yeah, ETs are real, UFOs are real, we've been reverse engineering, we have the bodies, everyone's like, see, I told you. But then somebody rolls out the bodies and like, immediately, they're fake, those are fake. Like, you're never going to make anyone happy. So you just have
well,
to.
typically when a UFO crash happens or some kind of ET body is found, or as we know, the giant skeletons, what happens? The people come in, swoop it up, hide it, and then everyone denies that it ever existed in the first place. So you got to wonder, like, did they just not know those bodies were in that cave, or did they not think anyone would find it, or did they want people to find it eventually so that it would be a psyop thing at the right time? You got to ask these questions. Like, yeah, that's the
Right.
And that's another thing. The memes that are coming out right now are hilarious, and it's kind of like the snakes on a plane girl. Like, it's everyone, all of a sudden the entire world is making memes, everybody has a video about it, it's gone viral,
it's cake.
It's cake.
That's a fake. Some people think that was real, by the way. They're like, oh, look at this cake. You're like, that was a fake.
It was not cake.
A joke, guys. That was a joke.
Here, I think I have that video right here.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's funny. Could you hear that audio or not?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What else? What's the other one before we move on to the next topic? Oh, paper mache alien.
Right. Could be. Could be.
And then what was the other one? Oh, this one I liked.
Oh yeah.
That was my favorite. So okay, did you see the UFOs coming out of the volcano?
Yes.
In another Mexico video coming out of Mexico. So it's a fleet. So this is a screenshot of it. I'll play the video here if it plays. It's fascinating. And like I've mentioned a few times in the past, on Amazon Prime, there's a documentary like Volcanoes and UFOs. It's something surrounding that. I forgot the title of it, but it shows all kinds of footage like this of UFOs present around all active volcanoes. And I mean, you can't deny some of the footage. You just simply can't.
Oh, there are hundreds of live, like live streamed active cams that are focused on these volcanoes all the time that show this happening constantly.
Right. That's what I'm saying too. They're live streamed. Like, some of them is news footage even.
Right.
Here's the video. Let's see if I can make it bigger. See that? I mean, that's pretty wild. Either that
Wow.
or somebody firing a machine gun out of the volcano.
No,
On the
you know,
inside of the volcano.
I saw the worst debunk on this, right? They're trying to say that it was it was a stream of Starlink satellites.
Coming out of the
Honest to
volcano.
God, that's
Oh
what the fact
my
checkers are saying, that it
God.
is a stream of Starlink satellites that just the you know the way that it was caught, that it just looks like that. I'm like, come on,
That
man.
doesn't even fit the description of the Starlink that they've already given.
That's not even what Starlink satellites
Yeah.
look like.
Not at all.
Oh,
That
look,
doesn't even
I
make any
mean,
sense.
and there's, so what do they have circled here in the middle? And usually when you like really analyze these videos, you find more anomalies even aside from the main fleet that you see. Like there's other little orbs and stuff that show up. Regardless, I mean, this is some excellent footage in my opinion. And it just begs the question, what is actually going on at these volcanoes, and why is there always footage like this? Like what do these craft, the ETs, whatever, have to do with volcanoes? How are they involved? Are they?
Well, I think they're, because I've seen footage where it looks like a volcano's about to erupt, and then you see all these UFOs go inside of it, and then it calms down. So they're like mitigating volcanoes from going off, I think.
Right, and right, that's what I was just gonna say too. Like, are they mitigating the effects of it?
Mhm.
What's actually going on with it?
Yeah,
And
I think that's usually what's going on with it.
or either they went in and like started it. They did
Or
something.
that.
They went in to aggravate it and lit the flame basically.
Maybe the benevolent ones are making sure they don't go off and cause a bunch of destruction, and maybe the malevolent ones, or the ones that at least don't care about humans, are doing the opposite. Who knows?
I will say this, from the Mahabharata back, there are ancient Indian writings, there are ancient texts that cite strange sightings near volcanic sites. And if we think that these things have maybe underground bases, a volcano would be a phenomenal source of power for an underground base,
Right.
Maybe, who knows?
Well, Mount Shasta, a lot of these mountains are volcanoes. They're just inactive currently.
Right.
They're dormant. And there's a lot going on under that mountain, and a lot of these other ones, like Mount Adams as well. So yeah, I think it's very possible all these volcanoes, have like ET bases under them, and they probably lead to inner Earth.
Is Mount Adams a volcano too?
I think so.
I think maybe it was at one point. Barry Everson, what's up, Barry? How's it going? He goes, I would say fake or not, all of this alien info coming to the mainstream is helping to wake up the masses and question the narrative. Which is true.
Mount Adams is a dormant volcano as well. Yeah.
Mount Adams, it hasn't erupted in 1,000 years, but it was at one point.
Right. And I agree with you, Barry. I think either way, this is helping with it's helping to push nudge the collective consciousness forward. And I've said this, my argument continuously now is our children now are being born into a world where we're not alone. We were born into a world where nothing else existed. We were isolated here on this pale blue dot in the middle of nowhere. And now we have it being acknowledged on the news by the government. So kids growing up now, like that narrative is gone. It's changed. So that changes everything for the future, in my opinion. So, just buckle up and see what happens.
Buckle up, man. Right.
What are your thoughts on that NASA report?
Oh, the nothing that they gave us, like we're gonna get around, we're gonna study this, guys. This is a study saying that we're gonna actually do some studies, right? And I love how he got up there. Bill Nelson got up there at the press release, and he was like, "Listen, we're gonna appoint somebody to look into this, but we're not gonna tell you who it is because you guys troll our people, right? You're mean to us on the internet, so we can't tell you who is gonna be in charge of this." I thought that was great. People are mean to us, so we can't tell you who it is.
Well, I mean, that's working for
Sounds
the
about right.
government. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's-
welcome
mean,
to,
sounds
is it
about right.
first day here on the internet? Like, welcome to the internet, guy.
Right.
Like, what did
Oh.
you think was going to happen?
Right.
I forgot to link that NASA thing, but it's not even worth it. Like, it's just it's like the most worthless thing I've read.
Right.
Oh, you mean NASA? You mean the same NASA that says they lost the technology to go back to the moon, and that's why we haven't been back?
Lost all the
footage.
videotapes and stuff.
They
right?
lost
Yeah.
all the footage. They lost the technology. We don't. Yeah.
But it almost has the
Oh.
feeling, this report almost has the feeling of like they're given like this agenda, this timeline, it feels like, and like on said dates they have to release something, and it's like they don't want to release anything, or they don't have anything to release, but they have to put something out just to like, it's called the continuing public acclamation program or something. I forgot what it's called. It's an actual like bill that was signed saying that every so often they have to release something to acclimate the public into the idea of the UFOs or whatever. I have it written down somewhere. Anyway, it feels like that's what they're doing. It's like they're just like holding up their end of the deal and releasing something, whether it's good intel or not, it doesn't matter. Like they just have to put something out. That's almost the feeling that I get. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
And NASA in Hebrew, which I just learned, it literally means deception.
To deceive.
Yeah. And I didn't just take the meme's word for it. I went and looked this up myself.
You didn't believe the meme, Tyler? Come on, man.
I had to go because
because
I've looked up, I researching what we do a lot. I find stuff that isn't true a lot. You'll see memes and stuff going around, and then I'm like, okay, that's clearly not.
It takes you 2 minutes of research to figure out that it's not true, but people just share stuff around without.
Exactly. And I've done it too. I have shared stuff that hasn't
turned
out to be true. And we all have, I think. And I apologize to anybody who shared something of mine that ended up not being true, because what we all do, and this is something that we should all consider, we just take it for granted that whatever source that we trust already vetted this and already did the research, and that's why they shared it. So when Journey to Truth shares something, people share it without looking it up. And then I'm like, oh shit, I find out, oh shit, that wasn't real. So then I'll either make a statement or I'll pull it down or whatever, or sometimes just let people decide for themselves and let it be a lesson, but we have to acknowledge the fact that not everything that all of our favorite influencers are sharing is the truth.
Well, I've noticed that you have really started, like when you post something, a lot of times you'll say something to the effect of like, I'm not saying this is true or not, use your own judgment or use your own discernment. And then you'll post it. Like you at least put the disclaimer on there. Like, I'm not 100 on this. So you guys, the onus is on you to look it up. Yeah.
Or I'll just
we're all going to look into this. Yeah. I'm not saying this is definitively true.
Or I'll just put the word thoughts with question mark. Thoughts.
Right.
What are your thoughts? And then still people will get mad at me for sharing it. This is obviously fake. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, sometimes it's something that's so crazy that I really do believe is true, but I can't prove it. But I don't want to come out and say this is true because I don't know for a fact, but my gut tells me it's true. There's really no quote evidence. So I just put it out and I'll just say, what are your thoughts? And just let people decide. But by the way, this reminds me. So on Rumble, there's somebody under the name of Journey to Truth 8 who's replying to a lot of comments, and they're giving an email address, and they're actually, people are think they're having conversations with us. It's one of the better scams I've seen. So somebody reached out to me and made me aware of this. So if you are in a conversation with somebody with the email address and screen name Journey to Truth 8 acting like us, it is not us. The same with
not us.
The same with Telegram. This happens like weekly on Telegram. Either my personal account or Journey to Truth, there will be some spam bot or somebody acting like me or Journey to Truth. And that one's a little easier to tell, but they're getting better and better at disguising themselves as humans now. So well,
you've made it now, man. When the bots are imitating you, you've definitely done something good.
Right. So if you get a private message from me or Journey to Truth on Telegram, it's not me. Just so you know, I won't do that.
Well, for one, all you got to do is check the name of who's messaging you, and then check our channel. It'll be slightly different,
Right.
so you can prove it to yourself. If it seems suspicious, I can almost guarantee you that's not us. But you can also prove it by looking at that.
Right.
Oh, it's not them.
Okay, and yeah, but this is something I wanted to bring up too. So this isn't. There have been many other mummies in Peru that have been recovered, and a lot more realistic looking, in my opinion. Carrie Cassidy over on Project Camelot, if you go to her website, she has done many interviews. She's actually been covering this for years now, since 2017. She has a whole library of interviews breaking this down, covering a lot of these other bodies, and I just wanted to bring that up. If anyone's interested, like, you go over to her channel and you can dive into this. But there's been other bodies. Some of them are kind of wrapped up, but there's a lot of what Nazca mummies that come out of that area.
Yep.
What else were we going to cover? Oh yeah. So everyone thought there was a Starlink or no, SpaceX launch the other night.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually wasn't SpaceX. It was a Department of Defense, right? Victus Nox.
Victus Nox. Yeah, Firefly launched for Space Force, the Victus Nox mission. On the 14th, I think. And I mean, they were sending up a small satellite, right? But some of the people caught footage and it looked kind of wild and they weren't sure what was going on. Firefly did not live stream the launch, which was weird because the government asked them not to. But there were videos caught, but they were able to use their Alpha launch vehicle and get this all prepped within 24 hours. And I love the name Victus Nox, like conquering night, right? But yeah, so they launched on behalf of Space Force. So that's what that was, if you saw that.
What I found interesting is, I'm just going to read this from the article that they put out. One sec. By the way, yes, I'm drinking from a plastic bottle. I've had people give me shit. We literally had comments of people like, you shouldn't drink out of a plastic bottle.
Traitor!
Should I drink like Trump?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to use two hands.
Yeah. Okay, so our camera on South Mountain captured the site during the 7 p.m. hour, and we have been getting calls from the people in Phoenix as well as the Grand Canyon. Something similar was also spotted in Los Angeles area. According to the website of Firefly Aerospace, there was a rocket launch on the evening of September 14th from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. According to the Firefly Aerospace's website, the launch is related to a so-called responsive space mission called Victus Nox. The goal of the program is to demonstrate the United States capability to rapidly respond to on-orbit needs during a conflict or in a response to a national security threat. So it's interesting, the narrative they put out there. It's like almost training for some sort of possible invasion, right? Some sort of space battle. Like, that's what they're saying this is, which I found interesting. But it looks exactly like the SpaceX launches do, which Penny Bradley says she says that technology is an EM drive that opens a portal, and they just, anytime they do it when they're traveling, it's something that they can't hide from the public eye, so they give us the narrative of a launch, and she thinks it is a launch, but it's a launch that actually opens a portal. And she breaks this down in detail, and I've actually played that video a few times, but it's very possible because you see the little spiral that happens and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a rocket hitting the firmament, Tyler. Come on, man.
Hey, it could be. Here, this is from somebody. This is some 11 seconds of what it looked like. I don't know where this was taken from.
I have no clue what that is. Could be a satellite, it could be space junk, or we're being bombed.
Or we're being bombed.
Could be.
Right. But the thing is we just have to take their word for it, whatever they tell us it is. But what I find interesting is we've all seen the NASA launches. We've all seen the rocket launches. And it never looks like this, this type of a launch. It never looks like that. That didn't come out until the SpaceX started launching. And, we've gotten a million different explanations, but when Penny Bradley saw this, the first one that was apparently tested years ago, she was like, oh my God, she couldn't believe her eyes because she had seen it before. And she was like, she couldn't believe that they were doing it in front of the public. And she's like, they have that successfully open a portal in front of everyone's eyes. And she goes, so you can imagine everyone celebrating because it's a big deal. But it is interesting how all the SpaceX launches, I don't even know the percentage of them that fail nowadays. They just go up and explode. That in itself is curious, or to say the least.
Right.
What else do you have for us, Foil? Anything?
Well, Avi Loeb. Talk about him for a minute.
I thought you meant like Avi, like obvious.
No, I was thinking. So Avi Loeb. Yeah, there you go. This poor guy. So he finally releases. So for those of you that have been catching these shows where we talk about space news. So this is the guy that had first claimed that the movements of Oumuamua seemed to possibly have some sort of a control because it sped up when it was leaving the system, right? And so he was convinced it was an interstellar something, right? Right. He said it could possibly be a spacecraft, but that it was definitely interstellar. So he started thinking okay, let's look for other possibly interstellar objects and find a way. So he had found something that landed off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014. And he thought this has the potential to be something interstellar. He had the Department of Defense verify his calculations, and with 99.9% accuracy, they agreed this is something that had an interstellar potential. The trajectory and everything was proper, that this is definitely worth exploring. So he goes out into the ocean and he uses this magnetic sledge, to pull all of these spherules off of the seabed. And he collects a bunch of fragments, like 700 fragments, and he starts doing studies. And he's looking into the material that they were made. He says, listen, this is nothing like anything we've encountered. The strength of the metallic spheres, they don't match any of our alloy compositions, nothing we've seen from asteroids that we know to be in our system. This is weird. Let's investigate. So he finally releases this paper the other day, and he says, yeah, these are absolutely not from around here. These are absolutely interstellar. The next question we have to answer is whether or not they're natural or technical in origin, right? And he's leaning towards that this is something that was constructed. So he releases this paper, and this guy is he's like a department chair at Harvard. It's not some guy that's known for shenanigans, right? Releases this paper. He's getting just savagely trolled by other academics now. Of course they're attacking him. Trying to attack his research, trying to attack the methodology of the paper, trying to attack the presentation of the paper. They're just going in on this poor guy. And he's been, to his credit, avidly defending himself on interviews and everywhere else. I mean, he's released a new book called Interstellar, right, where he's writing about all of this. And he's got his I think it's Substack where he writes, where he posts his updates. I think he's doing a really good job with it. I don't know, but I mean, this would be the first object that we know that actually arrived to Earth from outside of the solar system. This thing that came in 2014. Now, I'm sure throughout the course of history there have been more, but this is the first one that we've been able to find and identify and say with any kind of definitive certainty that this is not from around here.
Acknowledge it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is, we hear, they're pushing out all this stuff because they're promoting the fake alien invasion or whatever. I mean, it is possible, right? But if they wanted us to believe in all of it and they wanted it to be legitimate, why would they put the counter narratives out immediately? You know what I mean? You think it would be overwhelmingly this is real. I don't know, the Peru, the ET attacks in Brazil or whatever it was. immediately the mainstream news comes out and debunks it. Like if it
Right.
was the mainstream propaganda to promote a fake alien invasion, why would they come out and debunk it? And then why are they going against this guy? Why is they're going against the Mexican evidence, right?
I think the agenda is truly just not to promote one narrative or another, but to sow confusion, so that you don't even know what's real, right? Because then if you don't even know what's real in a time of serious crisis, they assume that your first instinct is to go with what the authorities tell you, because you've been so confused by all of this information from other places that when the shit hits the proverbial fan, your first instinct is, I don't know what's real. I don't know what's happening. What are these guys saying? And then that will bring you back to believing their BS, in my opinion.
I think that's the most highly likely scenario, to be perfectly honest. They want us confused. They want us divided. They want us stressed. And I said this in a couple episodes ago, they want us stressed. They want a stressed planet, so the resistance is minimal. If everyone doesn't know what to believe, if everyone's divided, if everyone's confused and stressed, paying their bills, they're just hanging on by a thread. They're stomping on your head as soon as you walk out the front door every day. They're being poisoned from all angles. We're exhausted. What kind of resistance are you going to have if people are just in survival mode at all times? And I think that's ultimately the goal. And like you said, I think confusion is the way
the agenda.
Is the way of the devil. It is the Antichrist.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. They want you confused. I mean, more than anything. What's scary to them? Somebody who is confident in who they are and who knows themselves and, completely tapped into what they are capable of. They don't want that, which we talk about all the time.
Right.
No, they don't want you to believe one way or the other. They want you to not know what to believe at all,
Right. I didn't even ask you, but did you have any trivia questions for us?
I do happen to have a couple that I could throw out there. Yeah, I can do that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Since Foil has to work, we can't do a super long episode today, but we can have some fun before we wrap this up.
Yeah, I get to go to work. Woohoo. I'm excited. I'm excited about my job. Let me not play. It's good. It's good. But yeah, I got some trivia questions we can do.
That's what they want us all to. I like my job. I'm excited about it. I love working.
It's better than working 3 jobs. Okay. I'll just put it like that. It's way better than working 3 jobs.
If we all have to work, right? I mean, we all have to do something to pay the bills, regardless of who thinks. We all think, whoever you think you are, we all still have to, play the game.
But try to, align your passion and what you love to do with making money. That's where it's at.
Right.
Do that, work towards that. If work towards that, and at some point you'll get there.
Right.
That's where it's at.
Absolutely.
Until we don't need money anymore. Until
What's up, Erica?
Lifetime.
Cosmic Mama, she said, look at the fact that our truth or disclosure community is confused and divided. So for sure, they don't want any leader or community with knowing.
Right.
And there's so many truthers, you could say, gurus, influencers that claim that they have the ultimate truth, and they're prominent names. But the problem is it's not aligning with the other people. So they all
red flag.
Right. They all can't be true. So you can clearly see there is truth within all of them, but there's something else going on behind the scenes. And there's a reason that different narratives are being pushed. And maybe there's different groups behind those people. And people that are being used to push information like that. Most of the time, it's somebody who is unhealed, who's in their ego and easily manipulated. And those are the types of people who end up becoming the biggest names in the quote community. And because they're easily used, and they're going to do whatever they need to do because they're still feeding off of the ego. They're still feeding off of that stuff, off of the praise and the attention and putting themselves on a pedestal. So we have to really be careful right now because it's very clear that everybody is saying something different, which means there's multiple different groups using multiple different people to push multiple different agendas. and there might be a core truth that underlies all of them, but at the same time, like believing in every single thing that each person puts out in every detail is not a safe, healthy practice.
Not at all.
Well said. Yes.
Right. Kudos to you, sir. Exactly.
Here's what I'll just put it simply. Listen to everyone. Listen to everyone. Don't just not, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to like hardcore follow everyone and listen to all their stuff, but like you can generally be like, okay, this is what this person's saying. Great. But don't be a follower of anyone. Don't be like, oh, I believe every single thing this person says is gospel truth, which is what I see a lot happening in the community right now. You find it's like these cult groups where here's the cult leader and here's all their followers that believe every single word they say is gospel truth. And they think this everything this person says is what's happening right now. And because of that, they discount anything that goes against that.
Right.
And like that's a religion or a cult. Like that's what they made it into,
And I see this a lot. It is the biggest name people. They literally tell you who not to listen to.
They tell you who not to follow.
And right,
Big,
that is
big,
the
big red flag.
number one red flag. Like,
Yes.
Anyway, ask us some questions, Foil.
All right. I got a couple for you. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Trovant stones, which actually give birth to new stones and grow, are found in what country? Is it A, Romania, B, Russia, C, Brazil, or D, Canada?
I'm gonna go C. Everything's happening down there right now.
I know, right? They're super busy down there with weirdness.
I'll go with C as well.
All right, what is the audience? Yeah, Trovant stones, guys. They give birth to new stones and they grow, which is wild. These are rocks, supposedly. Where are they at? Are they A, Romania, B, Russia, C, Brazil, or D, Canada?
By the way, rocks growing isn't like that. Crystals grow, rocks grow. Even mainstream scientists acknowledge that the Rocky Mountains are getting bigger every year, which doesn't make sense according to the official narrative, but things grow. Yeah.
Right. No, I agree. But these, I wish I had a picture I could show you guys. So the answer is, Sense of Soul got it. Karen Caldwell, it's Romania.
Damn,
of course, rocks growing and giving birth happens in Romania. Come on, man.
The Beside You Mountains, right?
Right. So these are considered living rocks of Romania. They're known as Trovants. Even though if you see they look like something from an alien planet, like truly. So they start out as pebbles. They grow when they say they grow, it's like 2 inches per millennia. Right. They mimic plant and mammal life. They grow almost in the same way as plant tissue, and they give birth to new stones almost just like an animal. They look like blown bubbles that are made of rock, and they vary in size greatly. I mean, some of them have now grown to be like several feet in diameter. Others are small enough to fit in your hand, but they're mainly composed of a hard stone core surrounded by sand that forms the shell, and then minerals from, in rainwater form a reaction that builds pressure inside of these rocks that makes them grow and multiply. And then kind of like the rings that make up trees, you can do dendrochronology with the rings in the trees. When you cut these Trovant stones in half, you can see the rings that actually represent a period of growth for them.
Wow.
Nice.
So even though they're not alive, like I guess in the scientific sense, they change with time, they grow, they give birth.
Most crystals will continue to grow in the right conditions until they break off, and then that's when they stop. Just like a tree branch, it's like a tree when it's growing and growing until the branch breaks off. Then that's the shard that you find on the ground, the branch. There's a cave, I think, in South America. I watched a documentary. It's the Crystal Cave. It has the largest crystals in the world that are just
right.
And it's like extremely hot, like 120 degrees in there at all times, or even more. Even hotter. You have to have like a hazmat suit on and everything. You can only be in for a certain period of time before your body will start to shut down because of the conditions. But it was all underwater. They discovered it underwater, then they drained it all, and to do experimentation, investigations, whatever, exploring. But when they drain it, they're killing the crystals. They realize the crystals only grow in the water, in the hot water.
Right.
So they create it's a massive, like multi-million-dollar setup. Sorry, I need to clear my throat. It's a whole organization that is literally paying to have this cave pumped. They're pumping the water out of it and created a man-made lake 100% of the time. I'm thinking to myself, who has the funding for this? What kind of scientists
Right.
have the funding for this? And what are they actually doing here? This is something much more that, you know, maybe somebody knows that they're, by killing these crystals or by draining this cave, it's going to like wound the planet. This is kind of what I felt. And NASA is one of the companies behind it. Like,
Imagine
and
that.
they're draining, they are paying millions of dollars to keep this cave drained, to create, and while creating a man-made lake, flooding an entirely different area. And these gypsum crystals stop growing and they actually start breaking off and dying. Well, these are conscious beings. They're alive. Somebody knows what's going on, and it's like a murder scene, in my opinion.
That's crazy. That is crazy. You know, me and my Star Trek fascination. There was one where the crystals actually embodied consciousness. They could mimic. Or no, that was Stargate.
That's Stargate. Yeah,
That was Stargate.
Right. The blue crystals. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's
Well,
crazy.
crystals do have a consciousness. I mean, that's actually disclosure, might be, but I think there's I think that's probably disclosure of like crystals on other planets that like are literally doing that, in my opinion. But you know,
right. Yeah,
that's where it's like they literally can create a double of you that, you know, goes around. Has all your memories. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what that episode of Stargate promotes. And they were actually realized they can communicate with the crystal. And I know people right now that communicate with crystals here. And I mean, and they learn a lot, and and they can see through time with these crystals, because the crystal, it's like a data storage bank.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, in Stargate they also use crystals as data storage in the ships and stuff, right?
Right.
Yep.
And that's the big argument or controversy surrounding the crystal skulls. People think they're computers, you know, and they hold all this information, which we do know quartz is used in all of our electronics for that very reason. So,
right.
all right, what else you got?
Crazy. Okay, we'll do one more. In the Victorian era, bodies were frequently exhumed with claims of possible vampirism. What disease do scientists now attribute to these claims? Is it A, the plague, B, dengue fever, C, tuberculosis, or D, coronavirus?
B.
Final answer?
Sure.
C.
What was C?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis. I don't know.
Right. In the Victorian era, bodies were exhumed with claims of possible vampirism. What disease do scientists now attribute to these claims? A, the plague, B, dengue fever, C, tuberculosis, or D, coronavirus? I'm seeing lots of B's and C's. Lots of B's.
TB. Oh, that means tuberculosis. So.
All right. Well, that is the answer. It is tuberculosis. All right, Aaron. Right. Right. Good job. By the late 19th century, scientists had actually discovered the bacterial origins of tuberculosis. They called it consumption as well. But, you know, tribal knowledge was that the disease was inherited and that it could drain the life from the relatives of the people who survived them. So a lot of times they would go exhume these bodies and they would see, you know, hair, fingernails, even teeth had appeared to have grown, and the complexion of the body would still be kind of ruddy. The skin would be warm to the touch. They would find blood in the heart, and then of course they assumed that's clearly evidence of continued life, right? The dirt above the graves would be disturbed. The skin would pull back, and it would look like they were smirking, and then there would be blood on the lips, and of course, those are vampires, right? That's what they thought. So there's an example of this that was given in 1892. In a Rhode Island cemetery, a group of people gathered to dig up this family of vampires, and they exhumed this Mary Eliza Brown. She had died 8 years earlier of tuberculosis. They found her; she was partially mummified, right? Her daughter, Mary Olive, had died not long after of the same disease. Nothing remained of her but bones and hair. But when they removed the young daughter from the crypt, Mercy's body, the daughter, had this other daughter, seemed really well preserved, right? So they had the area medical examiner there. He was called to perform an autopsy. And of course, he determined that it was a vampire. And then, they go through their anti-vampire slaying ritual where they remove the heart. They set that on fire. There was still blood in the heart because they cut it open before they did this. Like, it was a crazy thing, and even though this guy, the medical examiner, knew that finding blood in a heart was typical at this stage of decomposition, he still went along with the tribal knowledge that this was a vampire, even though scientists had already determined that these are actually tuberculosis deaths. This is what happens after the body dies of tuberculosis without our modern, embalming and whatnot. So, yeah. So often they would think tuberculosis victims were actually vampires. Who knew?
Interesting. I mean, vampires never went away. They just look different. I mean, maybe they are existing somewhere in the Queen's castle, so, exactly like we imagine them in the movies, maybe.
Right? Who knows? Well, I believe it absolutely in like energy vampires. Like, there are people that can literally suck your energy from you. That I believe without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
And then there's in every culture, there are stories of like beings that live, that feed on blood. The blood is the life, this kind of thing. Like, I tend to wonder,
Well, we did a great episode with Lexi Eisenhower on
I remember that.
The royal bloodlines and the vampires, and even tying it to reptilians and all kinds of stuff. It was actually a lot of people, it was one of their favorite episodes, including myself. So if you go back, I forgot what episode number, because I'm just terrible at that. But we did cover this extensively, and I think we did it justice. We did a Alexi.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Diligence covering that. All right, so I'm going to show one more thing before we wrap this up, and everyone see me share it on social media. It's the John Lear 9/11 video, but I'm going to share it because I posted it on TikTok on the morning of September 11th, and it's John Lear talking about the Twin Towers being destroyed via satellite weaponry. And I put it up on the morning of September 11th. Within 10 hours, it got 27,000 views, over 27,000 views, and then it just stopped. The view count just stopped, completely stopped. For 5 hours, I'm watching it. It didn't move. And then they removed the video because it went against community guidelines. I appealed it, and we apologize. It doesn't go against our guidelines. And they put it back up. And since they put it back up, the views have stopped.
Of course.
What happened was it was going viral. Like, it was literally just taking off in a way none of my TikToks have. And somebody's like, stop it, yank
Shut
it,
this down.
Right?
Shut it down.
Oh no.
Yeah. So they destroyed all the momentum, and now it's just.
And to
there.
me, like, to me, if you were on the fence about what he's sharing, maybe what he's sharing, maybe because they did that, it makes me wonder if like he's not spot on.
Seems more legitimate now, right?
Yeah, let me pull it up and have it ready before I share my screen here. Where's it at? There it is. All right, let me share the screen.
The World Trade Center 1 and 2 were destroyed by these satellites. They're using molecular dissociation. And what they do is just take apart the makeup of concrete and steel. And that's what all that dust was floating around Manhattan. It was just the steel and concrete coming apart into particles 80 microns in diameter. And what happened is after everything was done and said, they wanted to build a new set of towers. And what they found out was This was the first time that this weapon of molecular dissociation had been used at apparently full power. Well, what happened is they found out that it was not self-quenching. And what that means is after they quit firing it, the effects didn't stop. So that when they started to build the buildings where the World Trade Center were, they would immediately rust, and they couldn't build there. So what they did is they made a reflecting pool in there that is the exact dimensions of World Trade Center 1 and 2, and that was, they said that was for, in memoriam of the people that were killed there. But the reason the reflecting pool is there is because they couldn't build anything there. And then they built the new buildings around that reflecting pool.
So what's interesting about that is I had a firefighter, somebody's a firefighter in that area, reach out after the after I posted that, and they said that, wow, they said that would explain why the ground kept smoldering there for months. They couldn't put the fire out. It kept reigniting. It was like constantly smoldering. And so you have a firefighter who watched this and was blown away, and in his mind it made perfect sense. Like if there was some sort of weaponry that was the effects were still taking place. So the reflecting pool is to keep that from the effects from spreading, essentially. So and however long it's going to take for that to fizzle out before it stops decomposing the metal and concrete, it's just a memorial. But it's interesting. Regardless, I had, on TikTok, this reaches a bigger audience, a lot of quote normies. And there was a lot of negative feedback. People just like, get the fuck out of here. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like TikTok's getting worse with these crazy conspiracy theories. But then there's a lot of people that, think that it makes sense.
Well, molecular dissociation does seem to make a lot of sense. Everything molecularly dissociated except those damn passports. So those were perfectly intact, right? Nothing there is suspicious at all.
The magic
That's
passports.
a great point. And people are like, well, there was bombs. There's evidence of what's that thermite.
I think it's all the above.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make sure that this went down. So they had the bombs, they had whatever they had in place on the ground, and then the beams coming from the satellite was to soften everything. Like it was to soften the metal, soften the concrete, just to make sure that this went down. Like they didn't want it just to like be half-assed, I feel like.
Right.
Okay. Well, Foil, I know you got to get going to work in about an hour, so we'll let you. I
do.
We'll let you go, and we'll let you get ready for work. But thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, I love being here.
Yeah, and thank you guys who are all up early enough to catch this, and we appreciate all your love and support. Don't forget our documentary is available, CahociaUntold.com. If you haven't seen it, go check it out there. That link is below. Our next webinar coming up is on DUMS, the UnXNetwork, Hollow Earth. It's growing every day. I'm super excited. We're uncovering lots of stuff, and I can't wait to cover that. So if you want to be there live for the webinar on September 24th, it's going to be live on our Patreon. It's only $5 to sign up. That link is below also. We'll probably make it publicly available, months down the road. But for now, if you want to be there live while we host a webinar, sign up for the Patreon. We would love and appreciate your support. And I think that's it. Do you guys have anything else to say?
No.
Much
love to you guys, right? I see Aaron.
Aaron
Moriarty says he's going live at 1 p.m. with Andrew Basiago.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
It was just,
everyone check that out.
Actually, was just on his show the other night on last Wednesday. Yeah. So if you haven't seen that, go over to Truth Quest on Rumble and check that out. Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Everyone go subscribe to Truth Quest on Rumble and go check out that. Aaron
and G Rose says it's a paper mache alien.
Seems legit, right?
Anything's possible. All right, guys. We love you. have a great day, and until next time.
See you guys.